Tim, thank you for that kind introduction. Yes, as Tim mentioned, my name's Corey. I am with Alliance Solutions Group. I've been working in construction software for the past 10 years. My first exposure to Sage was a digitizer board in college, getting that set up for estimating. So paperless is a topic near and dear to my heart. Having good digital information for your company is extremely important. With me today, I'm super excited to have Sylvia Lamas. She is one of our consultants, and before joining our Alliance Solutions Group team, she was a CFO and controller for a Sage 300 customer of ours. So as a general contractor that was using Sage 300 in combination with paperless to manage all of their invoice flow. And Sylvia, you were doing that for about 5 years, is that right?
I'm closer to 6 years, actually.
Nice. Anything else that the audience should know about you as our main implementer for Sage Paperless?
Well, if you're attending today because you are from the accounting department, this product is definitely a game changer for the accounting department. As soon as I saw this product, I knew I had to have it. It definitely was a game changer at our office, completely changed and improved our workflows. And we were definitely able to eliminate all those filing cabinets of invoices and also all those folders that were being passed around from person to person. So it definitely is a product that works really well for our construction industry. And I've been in the industry nearly 30 years, so I come from a completely paper-intensive background before computers.
That is fantastic. I mean, and that's really what the title of our webinar is today, is document management for the real world, because we've all been seeing paperless and, everybody should go digital, but until you can really understand the workflows to make it work in your company, that's what it takes to make everything a reality. So let's jump into our presentation today. Today's agenda, real brief corporate overview, and then we're going to be jumping right into the software and definitely save some time at the end for questions and answers. So Alliance Solutions Group, who are we? Just as a reminder, we are a group of technology consultants, and our sole focus is on construction. We all have our focus on construction today, but a lot of us come from Sage customer companies or Alliance Solutions Group companies, so you're definitely working with a team of experts. Our focus is on Sage 300 construction and real estate, Sage 100 contractor, estimating. We have several cloud-based solutions now, and Sage Paperless. Our offices are located in Florida, Texas, and California. We've got over 20 consultants on our team. That expertise is spread throughout our operating area, so we do have a regional expertise as well as an overall Sage portfolio expertise. Alliance, our approach, it's proven, and I think Sylvia being on the phone really is a testament to that. It's not we thought Sage Paperless was going to change our business. It actually was a game changer. And how we at Alliance do that, we consult, we work with your team, we want to understand the way you're doing business today. And before we just make a recommendation to say this is the right product to use. So if you are interested in getting some more information, you can definitely talk to your account manager today, learn about your current situation, and then get a demonstration scheduled with one of our product specialists. But that final step is to deliver, and that's just working with our consulting team, experts like Sylvia and her colleagues to make sure that you get up to speed with the application and are effective from day one. So where does Sage Paperless fit into the overall Sage CRE portfolio? I developed this graph when I was working at Sage just to keep my own sanity. But at the core of the Sage construction and real estate is the accounting packages, 100 contractor, Sage 300 construction and real estate. Sage Paperless integrates with both of those and does it in a seamless fashion so that you can be accessing all of your job-related documents or all the documents associated with the given vendor right from your accounting package. And you're going to be showing how that works today. So some of the benefits of Sage Paperless. I think first and foremost, no more lost invoices. Information where you need it. Like I mentioned, being able to pull up directly from job costs through the attachment icon. Security. that we track all of your logins so that you do have control over who sees what documents based on their login to Sage Paperless, and reporting. Quickly retrieve those documents. And that is something that it's kind of hard to understand right up front, all the reporting capabilities. But there's all kinds of requests that can come up. You could have a vendor that comes to you and says, hey, we didn't receive payment from an invoice from last March. With Sage Paperless, you can pull up that full vendor history, all their payments, all their documents, see the exact digital paper trail that you need to really come out with the source of truth from your reporting. And as I mentioned, no more lost invoices. Like, that's huge. Why do I bring that point up? Well, as I was getting ready for this webinar, I wanted to call into our customer base and just find out how is Sage Paperless working for them. And I called and left a message for a guy, and he called me back the next morning. And I said, I'm glad it's working. The system's working well for you. How many invoices did you process last month, just for instance? And he said, well, let me pull up the report. And he said 662. And I said, well, did you ever lose any? And he's like, well, we don't really lose invoices because we use Sage Paperless. We don't have that as a concept of lost invoices anymore. And then I just talked to him a little bit more about his workflow. And he says, yeah, we still keep a filing cabinet that we are keeping track of our paper copies of invoices, but I'm thinking about getting rid of that filing cabinet because with Sage Paperless, I can access everything I need from my desk. And that's really, I think, what this is all about, is having that information where you need it, when you need it. So Sage Paperless, you can start simple, and then you can implement additional features with it. So at its core, I think 80–90% of the folks that come to one of our paperless options are looking to better handle their AP invoices. With Sage Paperless, that's called AP Flow, and I'll definitely step through that in a step-by-step fashion. But you can also route other documents and just general documents throughout your office. So you could route subcontracts prior to sending those out to your vendors. So you could get internal approvals on your documents before they get sent out. And all of that is linked on-premise with your accounting software. Sylvia, I just mentioned document routing and AP Flow. Did you guys have experience using both of those systems?
Yes, I actually purchased both of those and was so excited about the product. Pretty much everything they offered, I did purchase them, and my company actually used everything. So heavy on the AP side, but the whole entire operations department used doc routing for routing documents like subcontractor invoices, insurance certificates, anything related to the operations side. We use that pretty heavily.
That's awesome. Because so often in software we have features available that people don't actually use day to day. So it's great to know that, hey, AP Flow doc route was working in the day-to-day operations for a large Sage 300 customer. So that is our on-premise portion of the software that would get installed on your computer or on your server. It's sold in a concurrent user license, similar to the rest of your Sage 100 or 300 modules. But what's come out recently is the ability to extend Sage Paperless to the web. And the first two applications they released were Sage Paperless eCapture. So that can turn your smartphone or iPad tablet into a digital scanner that links into Sage Paperless. So you can snap a photo of a receiving ticket on a job, say what's the job that it's going to, which vendor, and that can link into the AP invoice if you want to get detailed backup for T&M billings, for instance. Also now have the ability to review invoices from a website so that you can pull up, so your project managers can pull up the website, verify cost codes, see supporting information, and do that all on the fly from a smartphone or a tablet, laptop, anywhere they have an internet connection and an email address. They could be a user in Sage Paperless ePortal. A little bit different how these are sold. So our web services are sold on a named user subscription basis, whereas the core application is an on-premise. And it's a little, that's always a discussion of how you want to roll it out. So that's where we can work with our account managers, and we want to understand the best way to map your workflow for the best way to use the product. So real simple on AP Flow, before I jump into the software, The first step is to capture your invoices, and that can happen from a variety of ways. That can be emails, that can be a scanner, a Twain compliant network scanner scanning directly into the system. From there, you enter invoice information. It's very similar to the entry screens of 100 or 300. So it's really replacing that function. You're entering invoices into paperless, and then they're getting approval. That can be a very simple process of the person entering can hit approve, or you can route that to up to 99 people in your company. And heaven help you if you need to do that, but if you need to route to 90 people, we can support that workflow in paperless. And then finally, you would export into Sage. Sylvia, any more comments before I jump into the software?
Only that there's some automation with Sage 300 and Sage 100, where if you wanted to route to your reviewers, approvers, you could actually set some of that up directly in your Sage product and then move it across to Sage Paperless. But Sage Paperless also has a completely independent routing system where, yes, you can route up to 99 reviewers, where it's limited in the Sage product, but if you're familiar with your job setup area, there's a place there that you can actually set up some of the routing there, and some of the clients that I'm working with actually prefer that method.
That's fantastic. I just love all the different ways that we can support our customer workflows. So here we're looking at the home screen within Sage Paperless, and I think real quickly what my eye gets drawn to are these graphs, and you have the ability to turn these off or on if you would rather not see those. But invoices for approval by vendor, invoices for approval by job, invoices for approval by age. So not only are we capturing these documents, but we're actually able to do reporting on those. And that's where I'm going to start before I jump into the AP flow, is to look at some of our documents that we have available. Actually go to my reports rather than my search. And here, all of these reports come default with the software, but they're all Crystal reports, so they can be modified downstream as well. One of the reports that I like is my AP unapproved invoice aging by reviewer. So if you are working in an approval system where you have your project managers needing to get into the software and actually make their approvals, you can have a list of how long have these project managers had invoices on their desk. I talked to a lot of customers that are still using paper and files to do that, and there is no way to tell necessarily where that document is and how long it's been sitting on someone's desk. Here we can see AP Reviewer 1 has 32,000. So if I click on their name and want to drill into that a little bit more, I can. I can see Cook's Lumber has been sitting here for $20,000 at over 120 days. And if we want to dig in and see the documents associated with that, here we can see the AP invoice, AP receiving ticket, and there's the purchase order. So I can pull up that invoice here directly and have access to this all in one report. You know, hopefully with Sage Paperless, people are getting their invoices approved efficiently, but if they're not, you have this report at your disposal that can definitely be a game changer for you. All right, so looking at our AP flow, it's really designed around the different user profiles because different people are going to use Sage Paperless differently. There's going to be some people focused on entering invoices. There's others approving invoices. There's tools for your AP entry person who's ultimately exporting all these invoices into Sage for payment. And we have other nice features like check review and AP accruals for running your GL accounts your GL reports at the end of the month. Sylvia could definitely speak more to the benefit of this, but we could handle that on a one-on-one demo too. So getting invoices into the system can come in from a number of ways, as I mentioned. You can drag an email attachment, or if you wanted to have these on a server, a file server somewhere, or scanning into the system, just a couple different ways you'd want to get invoices into the system. But if I just left click and drag a file, you can see the interface changes. If I wanted to open that file directly, I could drop it here. But what you're going to do with 90%, 99% of your invoices is push them to a queue. Think of a queue as a digital inbox. And so that's our AP processor queue. You could have another public AP queue, and this is also just where implementation and setup really you can define how you want to deploy Sage Paperless. I'm going to keep it pretty simple for our overview today, though. So when a document goes into your queue, you can make a note. You can say, double check our sales tax, for instance. Then we'd say, okay. And then we're going to continue going about our day. We're just going to fill up that digital inbox, fill up that queue. If you get the mail gets delivered, you have a stack of invoices, all those get scanned in. All of those are going to be going into your queue for entry. So as your queue is getting filled up through the day, how I would prefer to do this is, sometime in the afternoon, try to shut my office door, go to a conference room, and put in a set of headphones, and really just focus on entering my invoice information here. Here I can see 215 at 11:17 Pacific. That note is double check sales tax. So I have that initial note that I put with my invoice. We also have access to markup tools. So if I wanted to point to my overall price, I could also add custom stamps. Maybe this was an invoice that had been faxed to us. Users can also upload custom signatures, and that can be handy for your more general doc route functionality. So you have the ability to make simple markups, and this is going to follow along with the invoice. So I would just go to enter my invoice information, and we're going to start to see how Sage Paperless is integrated with your either Sage 100 or 300, because I have access to my very same vendor record. I mean, this is where Sage Paperless essentially feels like just another module in Sage. So my power equipment rental, I can scroll down, find 1601, or just enter it directly. I enter my invoice number, 180202. If that was a duplicate, that could flash up. I say, what's my description? This is just a rental. Invoice date, 02/15 of 18. Automatically pulls in my vendor terms. In this case, my vendor does have a 210 net 30 set up, so I had that set up in Sage to give me a 2% discount if I pay within 10 days. Invoice total is going to be $100. And from there, that's our overall header information. So most of what I see, companies are adding these, their invoices are going out to jobs. But if it's a GL expense, you can handle it this way. You can invoice to a certain piece of equipment. You can invoice to a purchase order or subcontractor commitment. Lots of different options for how invoices can come into the system. So here when I hit OK, again, I can pull up my job listing, go to Northwest Food Warehouse, say what's my cost code, in this case, asphalt paving. Here we see another integration, my job budget worksheet. So on that job, that cost code and category, I can see my budget amount is $17,500, job cost to date is $16,600. I have $100 in Sage Paperless unposted. So after I approve that invoice, I still have $795 left in that budget. So we have this real-time information right where we need to see it. So as I mentioned, you could either approve that invoice directly right here, or you can route it to approval. And this is where some of the upfront customization can come in. And typically what we see is a routing and approval process that looks to the job and then says who is the project manager associated with that job. So then route them this invoice for their review. You can set up secondary levels though too. So if an invoice is say over $50,000, that might need to go to an ops manager first, or to the CFO. Or maybe you're having issues with a particular vendor on a couple of your different jobs, and any invoice to that vendor, we need to route to a vice president for them to review, or our risk management department if we want to go that way. So hopefully we don't need to do that, but if we do, we're able to track all that information here with Sage Paperless. So here I'm just going to say route, and we're going to send this to a project manager for approval. So we can add a reviewer directly as well. So and you can route line by line. You can have multiple lines going to multiple jobs. Each line goes to a separate project manager at the same time. So it took a little bit of time to explain that, but really once you get into the rhythm of it, it doesn't take long to enter an invoice. Essentially, you're doing that same entry here rather than doing it in Sage 300. But the beauty of doing this is then you have all your digital images linked into Sage 300.
And,
we can imagine
Corey,
going. Yep, go ahead.
Excuse me, Corey. When you were selecting the recipient who's going to review and approve that, that's that area where you can automate that either in Sage directly or in paperless. You can automate things by job, by vendor, by dollar amount. There's lots of different ways to identify who is going to be approving that invoice, just to make things a little quicker on the reviewer side.
That's a great point to bring up. Great point to bring up, because on the reviewer side, it needs to be user-friendly for them, because what we hear oftentimes is if our project managers, if it takes too much time out of their day, they're not going to do it, because people are very, very busy. And so there's lots of time-saving tools that they have access to within here, and I'll show some of those from the AP reviewer side of things. So Sage Paperless at its core, yes, you're storing your documents, but you also have much better cost controls. And a question that I often get is, well, who needs to enter that cost code information? And my answer is whoever the right person in your company to do that. Sometimes that's an AP entry clerk who is going through and making their best guess at the cost codes, but then a project manager from this line can make this cost code modification themselves. So if they don't want that to go to asphalt paving, but instead they wanted that to go to cement paving, they could do that. They can make that change right here. They have access to the same budget worksheet. What they also have is the ability to review the entire history of the invoices we've paid out to each of these vendors. And if their documents are in Sage Paperless, they can click this link and pull up that exact document. Make sure you're not getting double charged for anything, make sure it's following the same format, a number of reasons they might want to have access to that information. So if they wanted to route it to another person, they could here, but they don't have to. They could just approve that directly. You can also mark issues, you can add notes, so certain things. I just don't want to get too far into the weeds in this initial overview. So here we can see that this one's been approved. Another invoice is approved here, and they can just step through each one of these and approve them as necessary.
Just a comment, reviewers can modify their invoices that they've already approved up until the time that invoice has been exported. So as long as you can see it here, that reviewer can still make a change.
I'm sure that comes in very handy for a lot of customers. So, okay. We entered our invoices, we approved our invoices. The last step to close out the workflow is to export these into Sage 300. So here we can see there's a drop-down list of different statuses. So I just want to see my approved invoices here. So all I need to, and I can review final information. I can see what's my accounting date, what's my invoice ID. A lot of information here we can look at, and we have our invoice date, due date, and discount date all tracked separately. If I wanted to select all of these, I can, or I could go one by one. Probably by this time they've all been approved, and you can export them. But you also have the ability to view an audit trail. So within each of these documents, everything is recorded. So from the minute that I imported this invoice to any changes that were made, anyone who's viewed it, anyone who's approved it in the process, you have access to this audit log so that you can get a story of what has happened to this given invoice, because that information can be helpful. So here we're just going to say export. We're going to say what's our accounting date. We say okay, and then this is going to flash up a report that let me know that those invoices were created in Sage 300. So my AP export detail report. I am of the mindset that the more double checks I can get, the better when it comes to having good accounting records. All right, so I just want to stop here. I was going to jump into Sage 300, but are there any questions that people have that make sense to answer here before jumping into Sage 300? Okay, so what I'm going to do then is just jump over to our job cost screen, and I can pull up that same job list, this Northwest Food Warehouse, And here, if I want to view the attachments associated with that job, how this functionally works is we have a link to these documents in Sage Paperless. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually minimize Sage Paperless, because what happens when you view these file links is it opens up a read-only viewer of Sage Paperless. And this is included free. You don't need to pay for these licenses. But if I want to see all the invoices that I have, here is the one that we just approved. So we have a link to this one, this power equipment rental, February 15th. We have access to the markups that came in. But additionally, when we want to see other document types here, we can do that same thing. So we can see all of the different documents associated on that job. It's taking just a little bit to populate. I know we upgraded our computer here recently. So you have the ability to view all those documents. But back in Sage Paperless, if we want to look, any questions and answers that have come in, Sylvia?
I don't see any. So
here.
Tim?
Yeah, I have some here.
Okay.
Let's see. Do we need to put vendor name invoice on the scan we are dropping into capture vendor, or does the software see the vendor name? Trying to see if we need to do the process of naming our files before we drop into the software.
So I can answer that. No, you don't need to name any of your files. My workflow was actually take all the mail, all the payables, AP statements, and actually scan them all as one big batch. And that entire document would go into Paperless. And then what would happen next is we would actually split up the documents, one invoice from the other. Saves a lot of time because it's a very quick process inside of Paperless. So you never have to name that file ever. So as soon as you start seeing the images that you want to store away or you want to enter as an AP invoice, then you just key it in at that time right off of your image. So there's never a need. If you receive 10 invoices that day, you don't actually need 10 unique documents. You could actually just have one. So one scan.
All right. How does the project manager see the details, email? Do they need access to the software?
So they do need access to the software. That area that Corey was showing for the review, that's if they have invoices they want to review. But if they simply want to search for a document, they need to either have this product, Sage Paperless, or viewing and approving documents is available in that one web product called ePortal. So ePortal does have the ability for someone who doesn't have this software to look at information on the web and also approve invoices.
The one thing I add to that, it's important to note the web portal is a little bit less functionality, like the markups that you would do in the main application don't transfer up to the web portal. So it's really focused on getting access to those invoices. You can modify cost codes, but it's just a slightly more limited interface than the actual application. But it can still be a really good fit for a lot of our customers.
Yeah, and I'll add to that in the companies that I've worked for and in the companies that I've worked with in the last few months, typically that operations area, project managers, project engineers, they're going to use this product a lot, but they're going to be doing some things that maybe don't use all the features. AP processors seem to be the role that uses everything, so that ePortal, even though it's limited, it might be a very great fit for someone like a project manager. They're not in the office all the time, so they can just log on any place on their computer, get on the web, and look at the documents that they need to look at, but they're not going to be able to capture and store documents, for example. But that may not even fit into their role, so that might be a really good fit for individuals who are not in the office. And then there's another product, eCapture, that's the phone app, and that may be a perfect fit for someone who's on the job every day that is expected to send over credit card receipts, receiving tickets, and things like job photos. That might be the only thing that they ever need. So lots of different products, I think, that fit most companies' needs.
All right. How does the application interface with the PO module of Sage 300?
There's an interface. There's an interface to the purchase orders right out of the job cost module. And then if you have the purchasing module, you key in the invoice exactly the same way. So that header that Corey showed everybody. And then when it gets to the distribution, if you select purchase order, it'll give you an area where you get to decide, is it coming from the job cost module or is it coming from the purchasing module? And once it comes from the purchasing module, then it interfaces back into that module in Sage. So it not only interfaces with the payable side, it interfaces with the module of purchasing as well. So closing out purchase orders.
All right, and this is kind of a show me question here. Can you demonstrate how you code one invoice to multiple jobs and or cost code?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we go new line on this job, so we would put in an initial invoice date of 02/15/18. Vendor terms would come in. Here we can go new line on a job. You enter that new line, you say which job are you going to, which cost code, or leave it blank. When you add a new line, that can go to a secondary job. So if you have like trash removal, for instance, that might be something that gets billed on to each job individually, then coming in on the same invoice. So as you're adding these lines, then each of these can get routed out to the project manager associated with those jobs.
All right. Next question, are documents saved in PDF format?
That's a great question. So documents get saved. They get saved in PDF form. Sylvia, can you help me out with the technical on that?
Well, I'm not super technical, but if you want to distribute the documents out, they are PDFs. There is a setting that allows you to distribute the documents out in PDF or TIFF. I always recommend that we set that to PDF as a default because most people don't understand what the TIFF is. So if you bring in a PDF, you can get a PDF out. If you bring a Word document in, it could be a PDF, or it could also retain the format of being a Word document. Were you going to be talking about any of the add-ins today, Corey?
Which add? Not necessarily.
Okay, well, I'll just mention it now. So for AP invoices, you probably primarily get those as a PDF, but I have had individuals send those as a Word document. You'll make those a PDF when you work with them for invoices, but you might also have times where you have an Excel document or a Word document and you want to retain those files in that native format. You can do that with the add-ins, and that comes with the software.
All right, here we'll do one more question here real quick, Corey, and then if you need to show something else here. How do approvers receive notice to review and approve their invoices?
Do you want me to answer that one, Corey?
Yes, please.
Okay. There's automated jobs. It's called job polls. Can you navigate over to administration, Corey? So this is something that gets configured on the back end. So job polls, we can set up automated jobs here. So right now, when Corey did the demonstration of being able to see the images inside of your Sage program, we would set up a job here that would notify your employees. There's a couple different ways to notify them. One of them is just an email, and we can set that up for payables as well as any other document that's using the doc route system. And you get to set the time. If you want that every single day at 8 in the morning, Monday through Friday, we can do that. Some clients like that set up twice a day. So completely your choice. There's actually about 6 automated jobs that I assist most clients with setting up. Attachments is just one of them. So lots of automation throughout this program. Thanks, Corey.
That's a great point. Just the ability that you do work with multiple clients, so you know what's normal that most people need to use the software for, but also the ability to customize it to the nth degree if necessary.
Yeah, with my experience in the program, I know how I used it, and after using it for about 6 years, I can honestly say we probably didn't use every single feature, but we used most of them for sure. Just like, for example, this dashboard. My dashboard was really full. You get a limit of 9 charting wizards, or excuse me, charting widgets, that's what they're called. I have 9 of them on. So you can maximize that if you want to. Lots of visibility, and that was one of the things that drew me to this software package, was that there was so much visibility to invoices and other documents that we did not have in the past. In my position as a controller, I had to put together financial statements. I needed to know where our costs were, and 6 years ago was going to everybody's desk and trying to find those folders that we had distributed out of the accounting department and trying to piece together the dollars of costs that were kind of floating out there. In this environment, full visibility, not only to the documents, but to the dollars. So can you actually demonstrate that, Corey? Because this is what you're looking at is a count, but for some, this may be important to toggle to the dollar amount. So I like the flexibility of this. So if you just click on dollars, as an accountant, I like dollars, but oftentimes it might just be important that you know the number of documents that are in these different statuses. And then you actually get to change how many you want to see there. If you've got 50 jobs, then you might want to show at least the top 10 on all of your different charting widgets.
All right, great. Corey, we are caught back up. Was there anything else you wanted to show?
I think it was just the ability to how you can report flexibly on your documents. So you have access to everything you want in the Sage Vault. So if I wanted to search for all my documents, I can do that. But what you can also do is set up these browsing nodes, what they're called. So if you want, and you can have different templates set up. So your project manager could see, just show me daily field logs, or only show me pending change orders that are in the system. But you can then say, show me a job number 0301, and now show me just AP vendor 1401 on that job. And if they wanted to see any of these documents, it's as easy as dragging and then saving these to a file to answer that same kind of question about the PDF. So if you wanted to save off all the purchase orders and change orders, you could save those to a file and have access to all those PDFs.
All right, great. Okay, we are caught up on questions. If anybody has any more questions, go ahead and enter those into the questions box. Sylvia, do you have anything to add in the meantime?
I can say a lot about this product. Really, there's not any other questions. Can you go to the desktop or the dashboard?
Sure. Yep.
So a lot is happening here, and again, that visibility is amazing. And this could be the reviewer can see what they've got going on, the AP processor can see what they've got going on, the controller, every different level you can customize this. If you go cruise down below, Corey, I think this is a really great feature too. So Corey called that queue area like the digital inbox. My responsibility was to make sure that the workload was getting completed. So oftentimes I had 5 to 6 people in accounts payable at my company. If I saw one person had a very heavy workload in their queue and another person had a very light workload, then I might redistribute the work. So that was always nice. Also, there's a way to easily pull all the work together on the AP side if you wanted to work that way, you can put everything in a public queue, and then everybody would share the workload that way. So very, very flexible. I also like the shortcuts. So an inbox item is launches you to the doc route. Were you going to talk about the doc route today, Corey?
I think I was going to save that for another demo for people, just because there's so much with the AP flow and having access that we're happy to have additional conversations to dig into the full functionality of the software.
So in the AP flow, inside of Sage 300, it still does require you to post once you export the documents over. And if the information goes over into Sage 300 and needs to be corrected, you would correct it still in Sage, and then you would actually do an edit inside of Paperless. Very easy to do. And for Sage 100 users, when you export your invoice activity over, it automatically posts all that activity. And Corey did show the attachment sync, the area where you could see the images. I think it's pretty cool that he showed you at the job level, but you could also see that at the vendor level. So if you're looking at a very specific AP invoice for a specific vendor, you'll also be able to narrow down that view to just see that one invoice. And then can we look at check review? Do you have any samples on check review?
I don't think I have good check review examples.
Okay, well, I can talk about this anyway. If you could just click on this. This is like the end of the AP process. You actually get to see your check number with the remittance information and all of the images here. And there's multiple ways you can see that information. Corey's got his to view it by check number, which is normal, but you could also, can you go to your options there where it says check number range? Yeah, marked for payment. Just depending on your workflow, this is pretty powerful. You can have invoices to pay selected in your accounting software, but you have not actually written the ACH or the check. Well, you could actually see all the supporting documentation here before you actually made the payment. So I say pretty powerful, because at my company, we were still on paper checks. Even though we had this system, the owner insisted on paper checks, and two different reviewers actually had to review all the supporting documentation before he would sign the checks. So we used check review every single day to review all the documents. And gone are the days where all the pieces of paper are stapled together with the check remittance on the top. And then one of those invoices gets lost, everything, it all kind of comes together here in check review.
All right.
Sylvia, looks like we need to do some homework, and I need to update my demo set with some better check review information. It seems like a great feature to definitely be able to show.
It is.
I think probably want to just touch on pricing again one more time. You pay for on-premise, just similar to your Sage 100 or 300 modules. So the number of concurrent users you want in the application. And then if you're interested in the subscription pieces, we can show that as well. But it's a named user annual subscription there. If you would like some more information, contact your account manager with Alliance. Folks like Will and Gina out there, and then also myself, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to get those answered for you. My email address and phone number, direct phone number, are on the screen there.
All right, great. Well, what we're going to do now, we'll go ahead and end it, get everybody a little bit of time back in your day. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Like what Corey said, somebody will be following up with you, or you can go ahead and reach directly out to Corey here, or if you're already working with an Alliance Solutions Group representative. Anyway, thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Corey. We'll go ahead and end it now.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.